What are we whispering about?
And we used to often walk up through the woodland, walk along a cliff, which is called the Crags in Scotland. And the Crags would then lead you down through the cliff, down into like a big area where it would be more like a field. And me and my big brother used to often go there golfing, and we just enjoyed hitting a ball about a field, really. So one day when we were walking to the Crags, I heard something rustle in the grass, and I was like, oh, what's that? So I looked over and I could see this little, I don't know, it was about 6 little gnomes, all with little pointy hats, and sat around, rushing around. They were quite colourful. They all had like different coloured hats, and they all had little long beards, and they were like sort of having like a tea party. Obviously I startled them when I saw them, but being a young child, they invited me in.
In the air, by the sea, from the land, and within you and me, fairies are whispering. Have you been coloured, confused, completely captivated, and craving clarity? This is Claire Casely, and I am a fairy whisperer.
Maybe you could use some clarity, some guidance.
To catch a whisper, you have to listen closely. Listen with me. Hello and welcome everyone. In a moment, we will meet Jennyfae, my guest for this magical Lammas episode. Before we meet Jennyfae, here is a brief intro to Lammas. It is celebrated on August 1st or 2nd in the Northern Hemisphere, or February 1st in the Southern Hemisphere. It is one of the 8 Sabbats in the pagan wheel of the year, and is named after the Celtic god Blue, who is the deity of the sun, storms, nobility, craftsmanship, and the arts. It is a time of celebration and gratitude for the first harvest of the year, a time to harvest the seeds sown since Beltane, and a time when it's easier to see fairies. Thank you for tuning in. Please consider following and recommending the podcast to a friend. Have you seen a fairy? You can contact the show, clairefairywhisperer at gmail.com. My guest, Jennyfae, is a fairy decorator, artist, and crafter. We wandered through an enchanted woodland, which Jenny called the Troll Tree Gateway. Jenny shared her enchanting childhood encounter with a group of gnomes. Then we gathered bluebell seeds from a fairy ring and created a Lammas spell jar with our magical intentions. And who is listening into us from behind the troll tree? Find a cozy place and listen with me. Hello everyone, I'm in a magical woodland today, which I'll let my guest introduce because it's a place that she's familiar with. I'm with Jennyfae today, and Jenny and I have known each other for a few years now. We're fairy friends.
Hi there, I'm Jennyfae. I also go by Jennyfae Moonchild. I run creative craft workshops. We're sat in one of my favourite local woodlands, which I have named on my map the Frog Troll Gateway. Very special to me. It's somewhere I often come just to chill out, relax. Normally in May there's beautiful bluebells adorn this place. It is full of scent and magicalness. I often come here to meet my troll friend who lives at the top of the hill, who I often come and sit next to and spend some time with.
Amazing. And you've created a map of magical places, isn't it? So the name for this woodland is from your map that you've created. So I'd love you to share a bit more about your map, Jenny, because I'm sure people listening would be interested in that.
Yes, certainly. I mean, I've got a map of very local places to where I live. There's a lot of places I like to visit, and there's a lot of special places with lots of memories, and they're all very local to my door, maximum 20-minute drive away, most of them. And I'm very lucky to live in such an area of Devon that actually has so many magical places. So today we're on the bottom of the map, which is a Frog Troll Gateway. I also have my Bluebell Woodland, where I often visit. The Fairy Door Oaks is another local place to myself. I've got places like the Stone Giant, which I like to go and visit. It's full of big giant boulders all stacked on top of each other in a woodland in the Enchanted Forest, which is very local as well. I've also drawn out on my map the Serpent Bridge, which is a local bridge where a lot of people from the Plymouth area will know quite well. But, you know, I've renamed all these places because that's how I feel when I'm there. And the Serpent Bridge, I actually swim there quite often. And one time my little dog, King, actually was bitten by a snake there, hence why it was given the name the Serpent Bridge. Locally from that, you've got the Stone Circle, which I call the Time Warp and the Ley Lines. I was there the other week there. And then I went to my King Elfsil Reflection Tree, which I named after my dog. It's somewhere that we used to go and sit regularly when he was an older gentleman. And I still go there today with my other dogs, and we sit and do a bit of craft and crochet and and just chill out. And there's many more on my little map of things, but I will share a picture with that for you. Yeah,
I'd love to be able to share a picture of your map, Jenny. And is there any plans, do you have any plans to create prints of it and Or is it something private for
It's
you?
more a private thing, yeah. I was inspired by Alwyn Oak. She does a beautiful map of her local woodland, and I watch her YouTube channels. So I often enjoy listening to her while I'm pottering away, doing my own thing. And yeah, she inspired me to draw my own map, and I thought, well, actually, why not?
Yeah, I love it. It's really inspiring, the way that you've placed the places on there and the names that you have. We've got a buzzard above us, haven't we?
We have.
Talking to us. It's talking to us. Hello. Hello.
It's lovely to hear the nature, isn't it?
It is. It's wonderful. And there's also some dogs. You might hear some dogs in the background as well. So the other thing that you've brought with you today is this amazing basket of goodies, Jenny, because you're a very creative person. Would you like to talk a little bit about your creative work?
I've been running craft groups now for over 12 years, locally in my area, which I now do a lot, because I go to a lot of fairy events, and I enjoy going to the fairy Enchanted balls and the festivals, and love getting dressed up. I've brought my fairy side into my craft work that I do, and now I'm sort of looking at like moon cycles and doing like full moon workshops, new moon workshops, to bring in the festivals and the seasons. And today I've actually brought a Lammas basket for our pending Lammas, which actually has quite a lot of goodies in it. I've got my beautiful Sacred Forest Oracle deck with me today, because we went in the woods. It's absolutely gorgeous. My new deck, I got it for my birthday from a beautiful fairy friend. I've got lavender. So each item actually has its own meaning.
Wow, just looking at the label here on the soil.
Everything in the world actually has a meaning, and what I've found is no matter what you find lying around, if you look it up, there is actually a spiritual meaning to the items. So then everything brings in certain aspects that you may be looking for. So when you find a gift on the floor from the fairies or the gnomes, or the elementals, if you pick it up, go home and research it, because it's interesting about what it means. It's quite important. These are all chosen for the season to make a spell jar. We've got grains and seeds. So I also draw everything, write it down, and
Wow, this is so amazing.
yeah. And so the grains are also for abundance, fertility, and new beginnings. You've got your soil, which is for grounding, abundance, connection, earth, resilience, and support within. You've got lavender, which is for love, self-love, peace, harmony, and purification. And I also love the smell of it, so I added that one in. We've got a jar with yellow and orange flowers and little sun charms. This is to symbolise the sun, to bring in the last of the summer sun. And we have some candles, again in oranges and whites.
Wow.
Which are for protection, cleansing, healing and communication, and also help achieve a clear vision.
Amazing.
And also in my basket I did actually bring a little altar set
Ooh, wow.
to take up to the gnome tree. And I brought some bees and ladybirds, and bees and ladybirds again are very important. So ladybirds are a symbol of good luck and protection, and bees are for rejuvenation and divinity. So these items will all be scooped into a special jar where we'll decorate with a beautiful yellow ribbon and a little butterfly.
That's so exciting. So you and I are going to do that today.
Yes, we are. It was something I always thought was a dream. I never actually realised until adulthood that actually did happen, because obviously I've had more experiences since I was a child. And I've actually brought photographs for the place I live, and you would walk out the back gate of the garden. Bear in mind I was only about 7 at the time. I used to often go off with my big brother. We would go through the gate, up the lane towards the coal. It was like a coal centre where it had all the coal, where the big lorries would come in and out and take the coal, because back then we had fires and we didn't have gas central heating or anything back in the 80s. So it was quite a big thing to have the coal mine near us. And behind the coal mine, we used to walk up the road. There was like a little open woodland, which reminds me a little bit about this woodland that I've brought you today, because it was small, but it just reminds me of this woodland, although it was all the way in Scotland. And we used to often walk up through the woodland, walk along a cliff, which is called the Crags in Scotland. And the crags would then lead you down through the cliff, down into like a big area where it would be more like a field. And me and my big brother used to often go there golfing and play about with it. We weren't very good at golf. We just enjoyed hitting a ball about a field, really. So one day when we were walking to the crags, I heard something rustle in the grass, and I was like, oh, what's that? So I looked over and I could see this little, I don't know, it was about 6 little gnomes, all with little pointy hats, and sat around, rushing around. They were quite colourful. They all had like different coloured hats, and they all had little long beards, and they were like sort of having like a tea party. Obviously I startled them when I saw them, but being a young child, they invited me in to have tea with them, which was wonderful. So I sat and had some tea. At the time, my big brother continued walking. He just did his own thing, and I just sat and played with the gnomes for a little while and had like a cup of tea with the gnomes, and it was nice to. And I can still see them in my head, you know, the little faces, and they were only dinky. I mean, probably the size to me. I don't know. When I was a child, it probably looked bigger, but as an adult looking on, I would say they were probably as big as, I don't know, bigger than a rat. Maybe like a size of like a ferret sort of size animal. Okay. They were quite decent sized little gnomes, and they lived in that tree area. So yeah, it was something I enjoyed going to.
Wow, yeah. Amazing experience. So, could you describe to people what your gnomes look like?
Well, I actually brought a little gnome with me, which reminded me of my little gnomes that I saw. So again, almost like Father Christmas-like. I always think they're like, you know, with a beard and the little crumpled up faces and their pointy hats. But also, you know, they had a little bit of colour in the hats, but they were more sort of neutral clothing. But they had the sort of the colour within their hats, and they sort of wore. They were muddy, and you know, you could see that they were like forest creatures that were quite happy in the forest with a little dungarees on. Mm-hmm. But he does remind me of my little gnomes I met.
Oh wow!
Back then,
take a picture.
Yeah, so we'll take a picture of him.
Yeah. Wow. And did you speak with them, Jenny, or did they communicate with you through words or telepathically, or?
What I can remember, because obviously I was very young, I must have only been about 7 at the time, I do remember chatting to them verbally, but what we said I really don't know, but I do have that memory of having a conversation with them and smiling and realising gnomes were friendly, because I think sometimes you could be quite fearful of gnomes because they're like grumpy old men, but they weren't grumpy. They were quite welcoming, and they wanted to like sort of sit with me and have a little tea party by the little forest area. Yeah.
So did you eat or drink any of their food?
Yeah, it was definitely berries and drinking, you know, sort of tea. I remember drinking tea and eating little berries and things. I don't think I actually ate the berries, but maybe I did. Yeah. Wow. Because there's lots of berries around in that woodland. It had like lots of like bramble, you know, blackberries. Yeah, and lots of sort of little berries. That's what I remember in my head.
Oh wow. And did you see them again, or was it just this one-off occasion?
I only saw that the gnomes once. I have had other experiences since, but the gnomes on that occasion, it was, like I say, I just felt it was a dream. I thought I'd dreamt it. It was almost like I'd been sort of taken into a time warp, dream sensation. Yeah, and I wondered if that was something that often happened. Yeah.
I'm getting chills when you're saying that, because the guest I've just spoken to about his experience with seeing fairies around his rats in his rat's cage, and he said these fairies, these little beings, they were there all day. Wow. And I said, so what did you do in that time? He said, I'm not sure. He said, it's almost like it didn't feel like a whole day.
Yeah. It was like almost like, yeah, like you say, like it could be a whole day, but it feels like almost like a veil that I had gone into, like another world, and then came back, and no one had noticed I had even gone missing, you know. And I was only a little girl at the time, so my mum would have noticed if I'd been away for a few hours, especially when I often journeyed with my bigger brother, who was only 2 years older than me at the time.
And I'm also wondering, you might have thought about this, if they had something to do with the coal.
Yes, there was definitely the coal mines. Was local. We had a lot of there was a big a big clay works there as well. Big pits with one of the biggest holes in Scotland. I remember going on a school trip there, so there was a lot of mining. So yeah, and I do believe that there could be little mining gnomes come back from work, you know.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Was that your first experience with fairies? And if it was, do you feel that opened you up to further experiences?
Yes, I would say that's my first the one I can remember. I have had other things happen, younger memories, but I think at that age it felt so real that I was genuinely sat having a tea party with all these gnomes where time stood still. It was, and I do often think, was it just a dream? But I was like, no, it felt so real. Yeah.
And do you remember how that meeting with them ended? Do you remember how you got home, or?
I don't actually. Yeah, no. I just obviously I feel like I fell asleep in the forest. In some ways, like remembering back, trying to pick that out my head, is I feel like I'd fallen asleep and gone in after I'd had this party, and my brother, I think, must have found me and brought me back to home. Yeah.
Wow. Gosh, that's so magical. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I'm feeling that we're being listened to.
We are, yes. I've got another one where I actually met some fairies at an uncle's house down on a bridge. This was when I was maybe a couple of years older. My uncle lived in a beautiful little bungalow, about a set of 10 houses, and we had to go and live there while our new house was being built. And that was actually shortly after living in this house where I found the gnomes, and that's maybe why I didn't have the experience, because not long after we actually did move and we stayed with my uncle, which he had a beautiful little wooden bridge that by his shed with like a little river, a little water coming through it, and what do you call them?
Stream.
Yeah, like a little stream, just a little tiny stream, and it used to feel very magical sitting there. And I remember like just feeling quite like it was like a little fairy glen hidden behind these houses, and it was really magical. I used to go and bathe my feet in the little stream. It wasn't very deep. I used to sit on the bridge, talk to the fairies there when I was it was only a year later.
Just picking up on what you were saying about the little stream, that's really interesting. So it's the back garden of some cottages, and there's often water involved, isn't there?
Yes, I always find water, and the fairies always seem to come to me with water. Yes.
Yeah. And the fact it's flowing through his back garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a channel for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the dinkiest little stream, and it came from nowhere, and it was just beautiful. And I just remember going over the bridge and sitting on the bridge, and it was just looking down at the
Oh, that's amazing.
because there was fields behind the houses, and then the stream actually runs under this bridge, and it goes. There's a couple of bridges along the whole place, and then it's like a gravel path, and this is the back of the houses. So in front of the houses, there's actually a mushroom factory where they there's a mushroom factory where they actually cultivate mushrooms for local produce, because there's lots of farmland, and to this day, as far as I know, the mushroom factory is still working. Obviously, the fairies like the mushrooms.
Gosh, it's like a recipe for fairies to be attracted to that place, isn't it?
And we used to get a lot of like caterpillars there, and yeah, I remember collecting lots of caterpillars off the flowers, and there was a few little girls there that I used to play with when I lived there for that little time, and yeah, it was quite a nice little magical place, really.
Yeah, it sounds it, Jenny. I'm really excited to go and meet the gnome.
Yeah.
Go up to his little tree, and we should go up there and just connect with him, couldn't we?
We certainly can. Yeah. We can do some magic intentions with our magic spell jar. Yeah, we'll pick a card and write on your special butterfly what we're doing. I've also brought some tree rubbing kit. So if you do want to do some leaf rubbing, to put some leaf rub in.
Yeah, this is so creative. I love this. I've got
my little special cards that I've brought as well, which are ones I make up myself. And these are, because I have dyslexia and I struggle with bringing, my memory's not wonderful. I remember a lot of things, but I do struggle with certain things. So I have little prompt cards, which I've made up, and I've actually picked out all the cards we need for today. And what's going to be in our spell jar, so you can pick out some of the words that you would like to add onto your butterfly for Lammas.
Jenny has so much wonderful magical craft
inventory stuff.
The things that she's made here today and brought today, it's just so beautiful. I'm going to take some photos while they're out of the basket at the moment, and just take some pictures of some of these things so people can see these beautiful gifts that you've brought, and I'm really excited to make the spell with you, so we'll go and do that now. Crunchy sound. So you were saying about the wood being full of bluebells, Jenny?
Yes, so that in the spring, the bluebells are abundant here, and there's actually a fairy ring just up around this corner, normally, where the bluebells it looks like a bit of a ring of bluebells, and it's higher than the rest of the bluebells. It's quite incredible. I'll see if we can find it.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Yeah.
There's also dormice as well that live here, so they're protected. Once upon a time, I had little pet mice, and I used to collect ornaments of mice and frogs as well. When I was back in my younger days, before the internet, I used to speak on the CB radio, and my handle was actually mouse. Oh, because I was quite a quiet person, although I can be quite chatty when I know someone. But again, I was quite a shy person at school, so my handle was mouse in the end, and and I think I just love mice so much, I thought it was a perfect name to have.
Yeah, that sounds lovely.
I love all the roots, the way the roots come out the floor. So the circle is up here, but we might not be able to see it because I can see it's quite overgrown. But in the spring, you can really see the circle.
Just looking for the fairy ring. Jenny's just pointing that out to me.
It looks like a big circle. It's very inviting, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I feel like I want to walk over there, actually. Oh, let's going that way. Stand on that bit there, look. It's got a special feeling to it, hasn't it?
It has. You can feel the last of the bluebell seed pouches there. So take some home. They got some seeds in them, yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
I'll put them in your jar. Oh, we got lots of little seedies coming out of these.
No, seeds.
The bluebells. And these are natural English bluebells as well. So these are the best bluebells to have. Plant them in your garden. Next year they'll be up. And we know that you've got them from here.
Oh, look at all those seeds from bluebells. It's amazing. Jenny's brought me to a special place of hers called the
Gateway tree. And
she's set out all her things here. She's created a little shrine for us.
so I found this tree as I've been walking along this little woodland for a few years now, and every time I reach this tree I always say hello to this troll gateway, who he has quite a big little nose, but we've just looked at a few photos and we've realised he's got a full face. And so I've given him a bit of a decoration for Lammas. I've actually put some nice bright yellow flowers around him. He's got my little gnome that reminds me of the gnomes I remember when I was a child. I've got a little pot that I've made for my crystals. It looks like a little toadstool house. And then I've laid out my jars with my special items from my apocryphy that I use to put in our spell jar that we're going to do today. And I like doing a little altar and bringing in the elements with the green man and Mother Nature symbolisms. So I've got my little silver water jug with a little starfish, magical starfish in there, and water for our water element. We've got the earth element using my hagstone that I found at Beer Beach. I've got my incense burner, which has got a beautiful fairy aroma to it, and then a red candle for fire. So we've got the 4 elements in there. It's all set up. The items that you would use in Lammas, I've got a card for each item which has an intention on each card. So when you're doing a spell jar, you would look at what you were putting in. From the big jars, you would take a spoon out some, put it into your new jar. Then you would set an intention from the cards. Lots of things, like I say before, have meanings. So for instance, with Lammas, we've got grain and corn's quite a big thing at the moment, because obviously it's the harvest and we're going into that new season. So we've got grains and corns, which would symbolise abundance, fertility and new beginnings. I've also brought some lovely little fun sun charms. So they'll bring in the life, the energy, spirituality, hope, renewal and divinity. And hopefully a bit of luck as well. I've also written on the cards like orange and yellow, their symbolisms, and the gold, because those are the 3 main colours I'm going to be working with. So yeah, each card has quite a lot of detail on what they mean. I've also got this little gift for Claire. It's my little Jennyfae heart with tied up with a crystal behind it, a shell, and a little moon, and a fairy sat on a moon, and that's me. And as we were walking up to our little troll, we've found lots of seeds for the bluebell seeds, so I'm going to share them out as well today. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So time to set an intention. So I was just saying to Claire that I often, every month, when we have the new season, I started doing this in Yule, but I've actually started it in my book from March, when I did Ostara, my first altar jar. And each jar has different symbolisations in it. It has different elements to be put in it from my apocryphy. So I have quite a large collection of items now, which all have different meanings. So I've done Ostara, I've done the Beltane wish jar, a dandelion wish jar. I've also got a Lithia. I did a Lithia one. The Lithia one contains shells, candles, soil, crystals, bees, flowers, to symbolise summer coming in. And then I often craft and do different crafts relating to the full moon or the new moon. So I've got a book of magic, we'll call it, the Moonlight Book of Magic that I've created. And it's all diagrammed. I'm quite happy for Claire to take some photographs of my book, and I've even drawn a tree of life on the front with a moon in it. If you ever see my van driving around, you'll see the tree is in process of being, it's not finished yet, but she is on the process of being finished.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Your van is called
Moonlight. So Moonlight, my van's actually named Moonlight, and she's Moonlight, and I'm using her as a Moonlight crafting van. So I've set her up so I can go away and stay places, but also craft at events, to be able to like make it accessible and easy for me to like bring out the materials, but also be able to live in it quite comfortably without too much mess and disorganisation. So it's very organised in there. Hello, they're coming out to play.
What was that? Bird or something? Hello? We're going to go soon and leave you all in peace, but thank you for having us here. And I've taken some photos of what Jenny and I have just been doing, and we've created some wish jars.
So in my wish jar, along the way, I found a lovely feather which I've added, the bluebell seedlings and the little hats that they lived in, so I thought I'd add them to my intention jar. On here I've actually written down on a beautiful wooden butterfly all the things I would like to bring in over Lammas 2024. Feminine energy, which I brought in with a sun charm, sun for energy, that's right. Soil for grounding, the colour yellow for wisdom, orange for ambition. I've also added ladybugs because I feel like I'm on the right path, a bee for community, and my bluebell seedlings mean everlasting love. So I have a lot of little bits in there, and we're sat by the troll portal that's on my map that I created, somewhere special that I like to come often. I've always felt a connection to the other realm as we walked through the trees. Claire got some wonderful pictures of the Vale, so I'm sure she'll share those later. And the card I pulled from the Sacred Forest Oracle is the Spirit Guardian of Summer, and it says expansion. And I was reading about what it meant, and it was very nice to see that it's everything I'm achieving right now is I'm pushing myself, pushing my boundaries. I'm pushing myself with my creativity, my creativity workshops that I run, and it's saying don't hold back, because I'm on the right path to getting what I would like. And there's a little noise behind me. I don't know if it's a little gnome coming out from the portal to come and say hello, or just a little bird. Yeah, we keep quite noisy.
Keep hearing shuffling sounds behind us. It could be a squirrel or a bird, but I don't know, I haven't seen any birds.
We haven't, and he sounds very close. He literally is behind this tree that I'm sat next to.
Yeah.
And I'm talking, and it keeps on, when I'm not listening, he keeps on popping round the corners.
Interesting. Yeah. Right, well, I'll share about my jar and see if he or she comes out. So I've got similar items in my jar to Jenny, so I just enjoyed putting the jar together, to be honest. It's quite therapeutic, and reading about the meanings of all the different items, the lovely little bits and pieces that Jenny's gathered together for these jars. It's wonderful, and I'm really happy to have my bluebell seeds to plant for next spring in my garden. That'll be magical to have some bluebells from this woodland. And my card, which is from Jenny's Sacred Forest Oracle by Denise Lynn, is the meandering pathway. It's got an image of like a wizard, a bit like Gandalf or Merlin, looking down a meandering pathway through a woodland. And it's flow, and it's about trusting my trip, just trusting that I'm enjoying the journey rather than trying to work out how it's all going to come together, just to enjoy the ride. I really appreciate that. That's a lovely card to receive, and it's been really wonderful spending time with you doing this, Jenny. I appreciate all the love and care that you've put into today. Any final words from you, Jenny, that you want to say?
Just thank you for the experience today. It was so nice to actually share my experience with you. It's something that I haven't really told anybody about, because obviously you do get judged in this world, but I've been, since my first experience with the gnomes, I love gnomes, I love frogs, I love mice, I love nature, Mother Nature herself. I'm very cautious. I love being here with her in all elements, and I look forward to my future and my journey forward, being creative and hopefully sharing it with others.
Jenny, where can people connect with your work?
So you'll find me on Instagram mainly, under Jennyfae-Moonchild. Also you'll find me on Moonlight Crafter Glamping Journals. I've got a few Instagram pages, but they're all linked together, and I'm also on Facebook as Jennyfae as a blogger. And then I run my weekly local page, which is the Ivy Bridge Crafters. So if you can't find me anywhere there, you'll be able to find me at the Ivy Bridge Crafters, where I am on a weekly basis creating unique crafts.
Thank you to Jenny for sharing her gnome encounter with us and her creative magic. For more Gnome episodes, listen to episode 4, Gnome Dinner Date, 28, 31 and 34, A Place Like Gnome, episode 38, High Drive-By Gnome, and 55, Gnomes Go Hup Hup. What are you wondering about? Claire brings clarity.
Claire brings clarity.
Here are some ways that you can try to connect with fairies during this special time. Spend time in nature, in the gardens, forests, or near water. Create a fairy altar. Set up a small altar with items that attract fairies, such as crystals, flowers, and shiny objects. Use guided meditations specifically designed to connect with fairies. See the episode description for a link to my fairy meditations. Awaken your fairy heart. Celebrate with rituals. Perform rituals that honour the earth and the harvest, such as lighting candles, singing, dancing, or playing music to create a happy atmosphere that will attract fairies. Crafting and creativity. Engage in creative activities like making fairy houses or baking bread. Fairies are drawn to creativity and the joy it brings. Be childlike. Approach the experience with a sense of wonder and playfulness. Fairies are attracted to those who have a childlike spirit. Use fairy symbols. Some symbols you could use that are associated with fairies are butterflies, flowers, dragonflies, birds, and the elements: earth, fire, water, and air. I hope you all have an abundant Celtic festival of Lammas. Enjoy your Lammas celebrations, and may you have a magical connection with the fairies.